Talk to Will Geddes, security expert, of course, here at TalkTV. Will, a very good morning to you.
Hello, Mike. Sorry to be speaking to you in these circumstances, but it's always a pleasure, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Looking at pictures from Nottingham, it looks as though it's an incredibly complicated scene. It looks as though there's possibly 2, maybe 3 addresses involved. There's people who have run over in the street as well. There's 3 people dead, 2 in one street in Nottingham, another one in a house in Nottingham. It's difficult to know precisely what would have been the case here, but it's hard to look at it as a terrorist incident, I think, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, Mike. I mean, certainly my gut on this, for a number of different reasons, a number of different sort of indicators, if you like, would draw me to believe, and again, until the authorities confirm it completely, but it would lead me to believe that this is a terrorism-related incident. And that's based on the following factors. Number one, the trams and the buses were diverted. As we know from 7/7, and as we've seen with Madrid bombings and various others over the years by terrorists, the means of transportation, trying to take out obviously potential sort of casualties on the transportation is one thing, and it was diverted away. The second thing which would lead me to it is the fact that the cordon was so large, the fact that the authorities have connected all 3 incidents already, which is in a very relatively short period of time, bearing in mind that this thing kicked off around about 04:30 this morning. Yeah. The number of multi-agencies that are attending, the fact that there are biohazard suits that have been witnessed by individuals, and the fact the military is present. So there are 3 dead, there are 3 injured, as it has been confirmed. To me, anyway, Mike, it does draw my speculation to this being terrorism-related.
Yeah, also this national interagency liaison and the NILO officers on the scene who are wearing sort of purple outfits. I've never seen them before. Apparently they were formed as a sort of inter-governmental group or an inter-sort of emergency services group after the Manchester Arena bombing.
Yes, indeed. I mean, and again, you know, we should be looking out for a number of possible sort of indicators that lead us towards counter-terrorism. I mean, the individuals that were intercepted first thing this morning, it's believed that these were plainclothes police officers. It could have also been members of British Special Forces. It could have been the Special Reconnaissance Regiment that may have been involved. And the fact that it was reacted to and responded so quickly across these 3 separate addresses, and one of which was a van that had obviously impacted with 3 individuals that have been injured, again, would draw me to the fact that these individuals were possibly under surveillance already, and maybe it was at the very late stages, which only drew them. And again, we've seen this before, where individuals who believe that they are going to be apprehended accelerate their plan.
Yeah, and I mean, the police in these circumstances are always incredibly cautious. I mean, sometimes, and I know that you'll probably disagree with me here, but sometimes to the detriment of the public. I mean, we're hearing, for example, stories like that there was meant to be an alarm that would have gone off in the city centre for people. You know, we played out the emergency alarm, and we sort of pointed out that we wouldn't really need anything like that if there ever was an incident. But if there was an incident and it didn't go off, then there's that story. But again, because the police won't confirm or deny anything, it's difficult not to speculate.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult on that emergency alarm thing. I don't subscribe to it myself, Mike. The problem with it is it's too much of a blanket notification, which I think is going to create more anxiety than necessarily help or assistance. Yeah. It also isn't localized. I mean, even in the message, it may say stay away from these particular areas, but with a minimal amount of information. I think that's going to draw more concern. I mean, obviously, there's been a blackout to the press until quite recently by the authorities. That is, I think, a good thing, but equally, it's a double-edged sword. You know, it can be good in terms of not giving out to any information that could create greater levels of anxiety for the poor people in Nottingham, who no doubt at the moment are feeling somewhat anxious, I would imagine. But secondly, it does lead to a vacuum and a void to be filled by speculation. You know, and anybody who goes on Twitter at the moment and puts in Nottingham within the search term will get all sorts of different stories, misinformation, disinformation. So again, as I would always say, you know, leave it to, you know, the accredited media to obviously report appropriately, and also to the authorities, who will then issue statements accordingly. And I think they've been pretty quick so far, Mike.
Yes, indeed. I mean, in terms of the streets themselves, you'll know what they'll have to do to kind of obviously forensically examine those. So I guess they could remain closed for a while.
Yeah, they could do. They could be closed for the entire day. I mean, this is a very, very large catchment area, and there are 3 separate areas which obviously they have to carry out their forensic investigations on. You know, we're going to see swarms of detectives which are going to come in. They're going to sift through absolutely everything, the residences, the vehicles, everything, to basically try and get as much information as they can to achieve, because they do have one person in custody, they're going to want to achieve a successful prosecution. Now, if they are known to the authorities, and my suspicions are they probably are, hence why they've connected them so quickly, that this is a case of them literally just getting that backup forensic evidence to support any case.
Yeah, and there is talk of a knife being recovered. Again, nothing from the police on that front, but they have arrested a man. He was apparently in possession of a rucksack, which caused, I think, them to think that he might be a terrorist, or he might be carrying some kind of device with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that may also be the cause and reason for the people attending in biohazard uniforms. And maybe from the military, it could be the EOD, the ordnance guys, who are responsible, obviously, for diffusing bombs or any kind of improvised explosive device, which might possibly have been there. Again, speculation on my part, Mike, until we hear more from the authorities.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, I mean, again, the call that I put out earlier was for anybody who's actually in Nottingham to get in touch with somebody to let them know that they're okay, so that, you know, people who have loved ones there don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Mike. I think absolutely, you know, anybody who lives in Nottingham, anybody who has family, not just in the UK and outside of Nottingham, but anywhere else in the world, just ping out a quick message. Just let them know that you're safe and well, and you know, and you're hopefully unaffected by this.
Yeah, absolutely right. Will, thanks very much indeed. Will Geddes there.